Nashville is alive with music, sure, but creativity also thrives in our art, marketing, technology, food, and in every corner of our community. On Creative Assembly's The Spark podcast, our mission is to amplify Nashville's diverse creative voices, foster growth through shared journeys, and inspire a city that thrives on collaboration. Each episode will take a deep dive into the lives and passions of Nashville's most innovative minds. We'll explore their creative processes, the challenges they face, and power of collaboration, along with so much more. Welcome to the Spark Podcast, brought to you by Snapshot, a digital agency on a mission to serve with heart, execute with excellence, and build something bigger together. And now, here's the Spark.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Spark, where Nashville's creative leaders share their journeys, wins, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Today I'm joined by my friend Bethany Newman, founder and principal of Statement, a bold creative agency that's helped shape brand identities for major names in entertainment, retail, hospitality, and beyond. Bethany is also the past president of EO Nashville, where she's championed entrepreneurship and community among business leaders. Today, we'll explore building a distinctive agency, leading through change, and the creative process behind brands that stand out in a crowded world. Let's get into it. Bethany, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being a part of the Spark podcast today.
Thanks. Excited to be on. My first time. You're my very first podcast.
The first podcast. I can't believe that, Bethany. Yeah. With as much as you're involved in the Nashville community, for this to be your first podcast, I am really honored. So thank you.
Well, I'll try my best.
Yeah, maybe we can just start off just with the softball and just tell us a little bit about like your journey. What got you into branding and marketing just from the start?
So I was always interested in art all throughout school, and when I wanted to go off to college, I begged my parents to send me to an art school, and they laughed and said, no. So I chose University of Tennessee, Knoxville, because it was the furthest one. I'm from Memphis, and chose something called graphic design because I was like, this sounds like me. I am very practical, even though I love art, and it was just a perfect fit from the start. And that is actually how I met my husband. We were both in the graphic design program. And through that program, you have to do some internships. And I ended up doing a lot and really sort of was curious about different applications of graphic design. So I worked at a small ad agency. I worked at a screen printing place. I worked at a product firm in-house, like the design assets, and a little small design company, and just kind of was picking up, like, what am I liking here, what am I liking there, until I graduated. And then, just hit the ground running, looking for different design jobs, and again, was sort of curious and impatient to try different things, and first went to a little boutique firm, and then I went to like an interactive, a larger interactive firm, which was really cool to see the design team working with the interactive team. I was in an all media, like all different forms. Websites were just happening at the time. Really enjoyed that. And then I landed finally at a record label and was there for a while. And around that time, the record labels, the big five, were going down to 3. So they were all buying each other out, combining, getting rid of in-house staff. And so within 2 months of each other, both me and my husband were let go. That's really what sparked a starting statement is, so when I had these different graphic design jobs at different places around town, I was always picking up freelance work for non-compete clients. So, when I was working at the record label, I was doing B2B work on the side. When I was working at the interactive firm and boutique agency, I was picking up other music work on the side. So it was just kind of a natural thing. And the same with Josh, my husband, who was a designer, and he stayed the whole time at EMI while I was at Universal Music Group. And so we were both kind of doing that, and then went through these record label layoffs, and we're like, well, we feel too young to do this, but we always said we would start a thing together, so here goes. And it just forced us at that point to start Statement. And it felt really natural because we were always picking up freelance design work and very entrepreneurial, both of us. Josh had jobs. He started since he was like 9 or 10. And, I looking back, didn't realize it at the time, but I was always playing business and had little schemes and stuff when I was younger, and kind of was always working and loving that. And so we just kind of jumped into it head first, like, well, what are we waiting for? We can do this.
Wow. There's a bunch there. I got a couple follow-up questions for you on just, your time at UT. It doesn't surprise me that you had many, many internships, but I guess, just looking at that and thinking of like college kids coming out of school today, my daughter's actually, I think, locked 100% into going to UT Knoxville. So I'm really excited, go Vols, and be able to go catch a football game. But how important is it today for people coming out of school that, like you interviewed, that they have multiple internships throughout their career?
Well, I think it's the most important thing that they have at least one internship on their resume, because nobody wants to be your very first introduction to a professional job. And if you have multiple, that looks even better. Not to mention, it helps you as a person entering the workforce, like your takeaways from those type of environments. Did you like being in-house somewhere? Like, I found out I hated ad agencies. I was like, I'm never going to do that again. I found out the difference between being an in-house resource for a large company versus, a small design firm. Like, I was making these preferences just from working in the environment and kind of knowing what I'm into. And it does help people from all different majors in college, I think, put pen to paper, like, is this even the career I want to do? It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's kind of the most important deal. That's what I tell my kids that are that age too, is like, it's not even so much your GPA. Did you do some internships?
Mm-hmm. So you and your husband, Josh, who is a super talented creative director, and I know has helped you all build the agency together. And so, I guess, you both got let go about the same time, and you decided, I'm going to start Statement. Tell us a little bit about like that founding, and just did you have some of your freelance clients that you brought in while you were doing the side hustle, or is that how you got up and off the ground?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So when the record labels laid us off, they still needed someone to do the work. So they immediately were saying, we still need you to do X, Y, and Z releases. So we knew right away those were immediate jobs. As well as some of the freelance work that we had done. This is before we had children, and even at that point, we really both understood we will always bet on ourselves. Like, we believe in our own ability to get work and make money. It was innate. We had a high risk tolerance. We probably still do. So we were just like, let's go. So immediately those jobs were bringing in the cash, and then, we were starting to pick up more work from word of mouth, from other people, those sort of things. I think Josh's last day at EMI, CMT had called up, and they wanted to, book him for the very next day, the very next business day. Like, could he do some, some day rate work? So we were confident in that and just kind of started going with it. It was pre-kids, so we did it out of the house. Some of the jobs that would start coming in, I would tap some of our peers if it was going to be larger and we needed more folks. But at that time, kind of Josh and I had gotten comfortable working together on projects. Really, the value of multiple creatives can get, put their heads together, get more things done, and take a bigger piece of that pie, and kind of just went from there.
Yeah, well, over the years, I've always looked at you all as like, man, you have built something really extraordinary. You guys
Thank you.
do amazing work, and you work with some very big clients. And, I've always been like super impressed and enamored by just what you and Josh have built. Tell us a little bit about like husband and wife, agency. You're both driven. You're both entrepreneurial. Like, how is it? Have there been, how's that aided to the success? And then maybe has there been like things that you guys have had to work on along the way?
We're definitely a work in progress. We've definitely gone through our different phases, I think. So with any husband and wife, and I think it's similar to like friends that become business partners too, that start a business, I think it's really, you get to that point where you should be able to be so transparent and self-aware to like, what am I really good at and what am I not good at? And what is that person really good at and what are they not good at? Mm-hmm. And be really clear and with each other and respectful of those things. So you're both staying in your lane, respecting, and you can create an environment where you are both complementing one another and not butting heads and wanting to challenge on every single thing. And I think, we've definitely gotten better and better at it over the years, but it was always clear from the beginning, even though we met in design school, we're very opposites. Josh is, very a million ideas at once, big ideas, crazy ideas. He just is a very high I. I am very much I need to problem solve and, organize and edit and think of priorities and hierarchy. And so I'm just like immediately like edit those things down and end up doing that. So those things, we recognized in one another and for the most part try to stay really healthy with that. Mm-hmm. And I think, it's given us probably waves through different phases of our family building. We've gone through like reassessing and adjusting those things because pre-kids, I was still, designing as well. And then I think, I had 2 kids a little less than two years apart, and something sort of switched in me where it was like, I don't have that patience as a mom anymore to come in and have my hands totally that deep into the weeds of design. And at the same time, excited about the business side more. And that was giving me more creative energy and less stress to be able to really think about the operations of our business and the client strategy and how to build better profit margins and things like that. And it just sort of started to shift. That was kind of like the big like pre-children and then post-children that sort of took us into a new wave there, I would say.
Yeah. Well, what I took away from that is, just really identifying like where is my lane going to be, where is his lane mm-hmm. going to be, and how do we stay in those lanes. I think that's a great exercise for anybody out there listening. If you mm-hmm. work with a friend or you work with a spouse, like you hear it all the time. And I guess just knowing that you're both in the same business, you can't always take it home with you and around the kids and you're talking. Who have been some of the bigger, like maybe mentors to your influences for you personally, like along the way?
Sure. I think influences, probably Josh is the one that influences me the most mm-hmm. all the time. Like, I just was always and continue to be inspired by his ideas and thoughts, and that I could not do that without him. But then from probably after him would have been another EOer, Marty Reed. He was building a little bit before us, started building his tech firm, which morphed during the years. But it was a development firm at first, and we would sometimes partner with him and do the design work for their builds. But sort of seeing him build his company and how he treated everything, like that was a big inspiration. He was the one also that said you should look into this EO thing. They're about to launch a catalyst. So like that sort of pushed me there. And then once I joined that, Charles May was a big piece of, he was my mentor for Catalyst. And, he had a lot of really great insights with his company with the similarities. And then probably as a female business leader, Van Tucker is just a very, very wise woman. Wow. And she was a big influence. Man,
Bethany, that is an amazing group of some superstar people in the community. So you've surrounded yourself well. I guess, what do you think, you started the agency, what do you think is a misconception that maybe people have about starting an agency?
That it's all fun and games, or that everything's really cool all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure there's that. I mean, it's work, it's business, it's it's people. Probably with any business, people can be complex and sometimes the biggest challenge. So, there's just this idea, and then when Mad Men came out too, like that it's just all this real, like, sexy ride of parties and, it's not.
It's not always a party, right? Yeah. What have, along the way, you guys have done some amazingly big stuff. Like, is there one, like, project or one campaign that you've done along the way that, like, stands out for you?
I mean, I guess I would say is, like, so many of the projects are amazing. So it's hard to just think about just one. But maybe a big pivot point was the Bobby Hotel. That was a relationship over 7 years. And the fact that we were able to touch so many pieces and parts of not just building that brand and all the sub-brands, but the guest experience from start to finish, the training of employees, kind of the overall strategy of, where their position in the market. Like, it was something that started and, came back and forth in different phases. And some of the things that we, planned from just a pitch perspective when there was very, very early and they came to us when they were still bringing on financial stakeholders. So, a big piece of that is they're still pitching their idea to get more folks on board. And a lot of what we do as creatives is help, illustrate that wide, huge vision that in many times is not a reality, which is great, but it gets the point across. One of those things being we put on, the mood boards of, let's put a bus on the roof. There's this idea, they know how they have this building that is lower than the skyscrapers around it. They don't want it just to be nightlife for the guests. They want to attract, business workers that get off work for a happy hour during the day. This persona that we started building as a brand was, it's Nashville, it's a touring family, like they're musicians, they love to catch shows. So wouldn't it be awesome to have this, vintage Greyhound bus and that be part of it and everybody could see it? And, it's the kind of thing that's just a vision. But then when they actually got all the stakeholders together and they were ready to get started, they said, by the way, we're ready to hit go on everything. And we've sourced that bus. And we've already gotten, the tour bus manufacturers to start slicing it and retrofitting it, and we're going to do it. And we were that's maybe one of the most shocking things that a client has come back and said to us and done. And it was just amazing. Those are the things that you don't think you'll ever do in design. Or, we had another client that Josh and I can vividly remember when we were in design school. We had to build for senior thesis a brand and everything across whatever company you wanted, and did it wrapped, instead of doing bus shelters and things like that. We wrapped a plane, on for the project. And the professor was like, yeah, but just so you know, like that never happens. Like, you won't ever do that. Blah 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 blah. I mean, it did happen with one of our clients then later. So and Josh and I just had to look at each other and say, like, there are no limits for what this can touch. If you think that there are, or somebody tells you that there are not.
Wow. I did not know which one you were going to bring up. I know you've done so many, but the Bobby Hotel, my follow-up question was, were you guys involved in getting the bus onto the roof? Because that is a super cool, aspect of, I've been to multiple events there, and it's just like, gosh, whoever did this, highly creative.
And watching them crane that in, getting to be there that day, it was just so much fun. That is really our sweet spot of being able to build a brand and its entire environment, and think about it from before anyone has any awareness of it, to when they first come in contact with it, and then their memory of it later and how they come back to it, and just sort of build this breathing, living brand that is touching so much around it. That's just the thing that we love to do the most.
Yeah. How do you guys come up with your best ideas? How do you spark ideas like that? Do you go in a room and shake Josh up and turn him loose?
We go in the magic closet and we just, we're like, here's a Red Bull. No. I think that's the funny thing about creative agencies. There's not this one best insane idea. There's just not. We come up with such great work because of our process. We are really about a collaborative process that we follow. And the more you follow process, the more it's like working out. You get your muscles super strong and you're really amazing at it. And it unlocks your thinking in such a interesting way that you can come up with all of these potential outcomes, that there are more than one great idea for each brand, and that's part of that piece back and forth with a client of what's going to work best for them. But yeah, it's maybe sounds like a boring answer, but it's the process.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned collaboration, and you mentioned earlier when you were launching the business, you had to go out and find the people to help you execute in the early days. How do you approach collaboration with other agencies and partners?
Sure. Well, we love to collaborate both just internally as a team with multiple creatives on projects, and then also externally with the client, really working in tandem with them and their partners, whether that be multiple stakeholders, multiple businesses actually having a stake in it, or their vendors. Like a lot of the work we do with communities and multifamily and hotels, we're also tapping in with leading brand discoveries with the architects, the interior designers, the landscape designers, really trying to work together to build this thing. And I think the best way is to just have a really open mind and be in a position of learning, because we can all learn from each other, whoever that partner is, and gain from each other. And I would say the same with a group of creatives internally. We all have really great insights to share, whether that be a designer that just started or a creative director that's been around forever. We refine one another by sharing and collaborating.
Mm-hmm. I love that message. I mean, that's very similar to the Creative Assembly and what we've tried to build here. So appreciate you sharing that. I guess what has been something that you guys have done or continue to do that keeps that creative in the culture of Statement?
Yeah. Well, I think with the culture of Statement, it's really important, the people on the team, as much as it is about talent, it's also about, personality, motivations, attitude. We're definitely assemble our team off of that. And it's the right people together on that bus that are motivated to always challenge themselves and push themselves to, bring something to the table, think outside the box, solve problems in interesting ways. And when we're constantly having seats at the table for those types of people, the work never gets old, and the work is always exciting for each other, for everybody together on it.
And I guess just maybe continuing down this road, what brand can be kind of nebulous. And, you're talking to investors when you're doing the Bobby Hotel, and you're rolling out this brand strategy and everything, and it's amazing. How do you measure success with building out a brand?
Sure. I think it's different for every single project, every single brand and client, and that is definitely part of that collaboration with them, is when we are figuring out, okay, what is the challenge here? What's the business challenge? What's the brand challenge? What's going on in its specific market, who it's competing against? What's the unique selling proposition? The problems maybe out there that aren't being solved. Once we get to that with each individual brand, then we can sort of define what it is we're trying to win at. And that is what success, I would say, looks like for that brand. So for some that might have a very specific tactical need, like to increase online sales, it's increased online sales from this brand rollout and then this campaign that we're doing that leads, to the shopping page. But for others, it's a lot more nebulous and long term. But it's our job to really work with the client in the beginning to look at that, to say, what is it we are trying to achieve, and build back off of that.
Yeah. What do you see as maybe a misstep with building a brand out that maybe you've seen other agencies make or other brands, even internal teams make when they're building out a brand? Is there like one or two common missteps that they make?
Sure. Well, I would say a big one is when it's thought that like the brand is just another marketing component that can be slapped on at any point in the process. That is a big one because there's so many firms or agencies that aren't really branders, just doing the brand. And
Yeah.
it's like, great, okay. But to be fair, in some markets for some particular products and services, brand differentiation maybe isn't a really important thing, and they don't need to have a lot of value on that. For others, it is, and that's definitely the ones that where we want to play, and because that's where our efforts are best put. So, I mean, I would say that's probably the most misconception about brand is like everyone can just say, oh, we develop brands. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great point. I think, what we typically see is, small to mid-sized agencies, everybody wants to take on that work. And, for some it means, hey, we did your logo and your logo mark and your
Right.
colors and,
And
that's the
yay.
brand. And then some
Here's your
people.
pretty package.
Totally. And some are like, hey, we wrote down, the meaning of everything in your company, but, from what I took with the Bobby, I mean, it actually it touches every touch point. Like your brand is everything from the culture that you're building to the guest experience to, the way you present yourself out in the community to just everything that you do as a business is your brand.
100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's a great one. I guess, Bethany, what do you love the most? What fills your bucket up about what you're doing?
I think from a client and project perspective, just learning about the different lines of types of businesses or the product, just the learning part of it. Like there's always something new to learn, which is I'm just curious, so I love that. And then I would say from our agency perspective, I just love seeing what our creative team makes. I mean, they surprise me every day. I just love to see their fresh ideas. There's just an sort of unreachable well of just constant ideas, and that probably gets me every day. I can just check Slack and see what's going on and be super impressed and re-energized.
Yeah, well, we'll shift gears a little bit. I mean, you're, like you don't have enough to do at Statement, so you take on, I know you're an EO, but not only are you an EO, you took on a role of the president of EO a few years back and had the luxury of being on the board with you, and you did an amazing job there. Like, what leadership lessons did you feel like maybe that taught you or that maybe you were looking forward to take on that role?
Well, I mean, first, it's just an incredible honor to lead leaders. Like, I was very scared of doing it, but wanted to challenge myself and go for it because I don't love being the one in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Delivering for all the folks. I do love to be in charge, don't get me wrong, and love bossing around. But so that was a challenge that I put myself up to and really gained so much from it and being inspired just daily from the different leaders that you are leading and insights that you just gain from that. But maybe one of the biggest takeaways was to really, step back and let your team do what they do best. And I do think that is like a long-term lesson for leaders as they evolve their company more and more. But definitely there was a huge jump in that after doing that to say, just trust the team, get out of the way. Trust the team, get out of the way.
Yeah, I love that message so much. And the other that you said was do hard things, challenge yourself to do something that you're not comfortable with. And you did it, and nobody would have ever known because I felt like you were very confident in everything you were doing. So
that's nice. Thank you.
How has being a part of EO kind of shaped the way that you and Josh run the agency today?
It's greatly shaped it because I would say, we were running it as a design firm. We started it 2004, and then, were kind of starting to build up the team around the time that I was having babies. So that was 2008. We moved it into an office space and getting full-time creatives with us. And, I was just kind of playing it as I went, very much feeling I'm a little bit of an imposter. I have an art degree, and I'm playing business. And at some point, I should probably go back to school and get an MBA. But then, Marty Reed had invited me sometimes to see EO talks when it was open to guests, and I just loved it. I thought, I love this kind of learning, listening to these great business leaders and inspiring talks. And he had said, well, they're going to start this new program, Catalyst. I really think you should do it. So that was about 2011. Maybe 2011. And so I signed up for that, the very first session of Catalyst. And it was like my MBA. I loved it. I was like drinking from a fire hose. It was, everything that I could have thought that I wanted from a traditional university, maybe if I had gone back, like night school or whatever. But the timing was just kind of perfect because my kids were like getting into elementary school, and I could really then shift and kind of focus this new energy into not just growing a healthy business, but purposefully scaling it and purposefully deciding who we are. And some of the things that I was just doing by intuition, I really started to realize at that point, what is our unique selling proposition and what are we different from than other creative agencies? And that is definitely the shift. And when I sort of came to that realization of we are really good at brand strategy. Like, we aren't just a graphic design firm. We're actually solving business problems. We are coming with a lot of strategic value. The thing we do really well is build brands, and I'm going to start shifting the company in this way and scale it purposefully in this way. And that was all thanks to Catalyst.
Wow. And along the way, not only do you have the agency, but you've got another business, I'm sure, which is you own your own building in downtown Nashville, right? Mm-hmm. So how is that, acquiring a piece of property, building out your space, now it's yours, how's that kind of influenced the way that you run the agency, or has it?
I mean, I'd say it does to some extent. So, running a service business is definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. And it's definitely not your retirement strategy. It's a service business. Mm-hmm. You do it because you love it. So at the time, which first actually we got space out in Cool Springs. At the time, you just think, well, how can we diversify? You're thinking about yourself from a family asset perspective. And it just was like easy. Well, let's get this office suite, and then we can do whatever we want. And also it's just good. It's a good place to put cash for later. Mm-hmm. And so when we found the downtown building, it definitely was that, as well as like, what is our retirement strategy, as well as how can we do what we want to do with nobody telling us what to do, first statement. Mm-hmm. And that was really why. And I would say the sort of the positive influence it has if you have a service business that you can run in a building that you own is that there's no stress of like, what's the landlord going to do? I have to shift because rent's going up, or now there's a pandemic and I'll just guess I'm going to break the lease and then later I'll have to get another lease. Like, you never have to make decisions like that. And you can be incredibly flexible with your own company as your own landlord of, this is what the company needs right now and this is how I'll handle it. While I know this is a long-term play with the building. And, I would say from a culture perspective, it just gives us that ability to put long-term roots and build out the way we want anything and everything. And again, nobody can tell us what to do. I really hate, anybody bossing me. So that's a big piece of it.
Well, I mean, having control over your space too mm-hmm. is a good point. Just when we started Snapshot, we grew it to probably, I think we had maybe 7 employees at the time. We were in a little bitty office space over in East Nashville, and our lease had expired, but mm-hmm. we went month to month, and our landlord was, we'll work with you. We went about 3 months in, and we got a letter that was, you have 30 days to get out and find another lease, because we've not only leased your space, but the space next to it. And, it's just a better deal. They've signed a longer term lease with us, which, I mean, I get it from a building owner standpoint, but at the same time, it really put us in a jeopardy of we had to move 7 people. We had to go find a space, negotiate the lease,
Stress.
live out of a closet for, a couple months while they built it out. And so having that control does make a big difference. So.
It does, and we didn't realize it at the time, because we were looking for buildings that had garage bays, because we wanted to just open up those bays, have a big collaborative space. We had somewhat of a large collaborative space for the very smaller team of us in Cool Springs, so we knew we needed that for a bigger one. And this building had a vault in it, which we were kind of like, for a what? And it was used to house money for armored trucks would come, drop their cash. So, it's a huge open room, but it's 30 inches of concrete. So you're not, without spending a lot of money, you're not really like tearing into that or changing that. So we thought, okay, well, we can do any sort of photo shoots we need to. Right, we never have to pay shoot fee space if we just need something quick. Schedule it on the fly. When we've done like experiential work for festivals, we have space to do test builds. Mess around with things. We have, one of our designers is an incredibly talented musician in a band. He's got after hours space for his band to practice in. I mean, it just it lets us be extremely creative in having that space to do whatever we need or whatever comes up.
Plus, if a tornado ever comes through downtown,
yes,
you
with more extreme temperature, with extreme weather events happening, we're definitely like nobody leave. We pull up the garage doors and pull the cars from the lot in because of the hail coming down. We can move the desk, pull the cars in, and go hide in the vault.
Wow. Well, you've gotten a lot of great advice along the way from some of the leaders you've mentioned. Like, what is a piece of advice that you'd give to a creative person that's trying to launch an agency today?
I would say be adaptive, just be very adaptive and flexible, and listen to your intuition, because a lot of it is that.
Yeah. How, you guys have been doing this for a while now. Mm-hmm. Like, how have you seen, Nashville in the creative scene? How have you seen it evolve since you guys started Statement?
So I would say in the 90s, it was definitely more very siloed into different industries. So, you had the ad agencies that had been around for some time. You had the music industry world, you have the people that work in printing, and you have the people that work in healthcare, very siloed and not mixing at all. And I would say it differs in that it's become a lot more collaborative and, people jumping around from different ones and being more aware. But, and the city itself has just become more of a magnet for more and more creatives to move here, be a part of something here. I still feel like we have a huge ways to go because Nashville is like a little big town. We have the creative depth of larger cities, but still on the sometimes can really see ourselves as small town and not take ourselves as seriously as that. When we started Statement, and even to this day, we've never measured ourselves against the Nashville community. That was never sort of the goal. It was never. We were always looking for national work and just no borders, so to speak. Definitely would always sort of aspire to put out work, on par with New York and LA, and be sort of in that same class. And I think there's always been that depth here, but it's not maybe. It's not. We just don't take ourselves as seriously. Yeah. Because it's Nashville. Mm-hmm. We're friendly. We're collaborative. We are.
It is a huge positive of the city.
Yeah.
That's the case, and you're right. I mean, and people want to help each other out and want to help you out if you just ask for it. Mm-hmm. Is what I've seen along the way as well. What innovations or trends are you guys keeping up with today?
I mean, I think we're always trying to stay at like the forefront of new technologies and how we can integrate those into potential offerings. We're very like tech agnostic because we work for so many different industries that we want to be able to plug and play and not say, here's our box, this is what everybody does. So with that, I think the most recent one is AI. We're playing with that for different pieces and parts of process because it's like another calculator. It's a way we can speed up research, speed up innovation, things like that. But yeah, we're always playing with weird tech in the office.
Yeah.
Definitely Josh would be your mad scientist to ask that question to.
Yeah. How about like you personally? How about like a practice or habit or mindset that you do on a daily that helps keep you in the best spot?
I would say something that I always try to keep in mind, and actually I say this to the team a lot from the beginning, is like, nobody is bleeding out on the table like surgery. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, sometimes we get in a very stressful situation and it's got to be fixed and it's got to be right. But at the end of the day, like, it's not surgery. Nobody's dying. Like, let's all take a breath, reset. Like, it's going to be okay. And I do this because I think we can sometimes just get so wrapped around, and it is very, very important to deliver. I've got to say, like, it is important to deliver and to do things really, really well. But at the same time, like, nobody's dying. Mm-hmm. Let's take a breath.
How about a brand that you like admire today?
That's a hard one because like I'm constantly admiring brands.
Yeah.
I would say I love to travel, so a brand lately that I really like is the Hoxton. They have different boutique hotels around different cities. That's one I admire. I'd say from a business tech perspective, Figma, what they're doing, like, pretty amazing. I don't know. Can I say all the brands we make?
Yeah. You have to, I'm sure, get inspiration from just looking all over.
I do, and that's a big piece of, I love to travel and see that aspect all around.
Yeah. Is there a like a book or a podcast that's kind of influenced where you're at today?
That's a hard one. Because definitely during the pandemic, I stopped reading business books and started just reading for escape and pleasure.
Okay.
And then podcasts right now, like, I'm really into Prof G markets, but that's kind of more a sort of business landscape and markets as I'm just thinking about my business and everything. And it's less about leadership advice or anything like that. Sorry, I'm not.
Yeah. No, that's good. What, I guess going back to the beginning of statement, is there any advice that you'd give to your younger self that could have sped up where you're at today?
Probably be patient and soften up.
Yeah.
You don't have to be so hard all the time. I definitely be patient and soften up, have some grace for yourself. That's definitely, I think, what I would say to any sort of young founder or advice in doing this is high achievers are very hard on themselves, and so to try to constantly remind yourself, like, we're all a work in progress. Have grace for yourself.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, but just keep moving. Just keep swimming.
Totally. And you mentioned the imposter syndrome along the way of, am I really the person that should be doing this?
Yeah.
And it's just unbelievable the amount of CEOs, business owners that I come in contact with that they bring up imposter syndrome. And I think we all have had it. I've talked on other episodes about the same thing. So
definitely. And I think from the creative agency perspective, when you go into some really big boardrooms sometimes with some really titans of industry, you can definitely feel that way as the weird creative in the room, or for female entrepreneurs, like, you you can, when you can be the lone woman at the table and you have to speak up and interrupt a lot to be heard. Like you can feel that way a lot, but I think it's important to remind yourself that everybody has it to some extent. Even the most polished, most legend.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our shit.
Yeah, totally. Is there anything that maybe would be surprising about you that our audience wouldn't know? Beyond just you, Josh, family travels quite a bit.
So very, very long ago, I used to be, I did like competitive cheering and pom, throughout high school and did the competitions on ESPN. And that was sort of my way of being competitive, which later translated into I like to be very competitive in business. But I'm kind of the least cheerleader type. I am very not rah-rah because that's something I work on as a leader. I'm very much like thinking of the future and doing the next thing and not so much stopping to celebrate the wins and being the cheerleader and, saying, yay, we did so great, pat ourselves on the back. Like, I'm not that person. I have to make sure I have a person like that on my team because I will forget to do that. Even though I am incredibly proud and happy when we pull things off, I'm just like constantly running forward and future focused and have to remind myself to go back, bring everyone along and celebrate with everyone along. And the irony is that I was a lettered cheerleader.
Mm-hmm. Man, I've heard that same story from multiple people, even on this podcast, that, and I'm the same way, Bethany, I've had to learn that is, man, stop and celebrate a little bit and don't hey, okay, that's great. What's next? You know, it's like you're always like, let's move the goalpost another 10 yards, right? Because we just accomplished that.
And they're like, what big goals did you accomplish? I'm like, I don't know. I'm still doing that. Like, I'm still going to that next one. It's a little bit of a sickness.
And it can
now in that middle age, I'm trying to address it. So.
Yeah, and it can burn the team out too if you're not careful. To stop and celebrate. So, how have you built the award-winning team that you've had over the years? And I know it's probably shifted a little bit through the time, but how do you get the best people?
I think when we're searching for good talent, it's also so much about the personality and the motivations and the attitude and the people that are going to have the spirit that they want to be in a team and collaborating together, and they're inspired by the constant challenge of a completely different industry, a completely different project type, a completely different challenge. That's a special kind of weirdo that wants that. So, we're looking for that and we're assembling that. And every time that we're adding people, we're thinking about how they work together with that. And it continues to attract more people like that. It is a self-fulfilling attraction, much like a really good brand. If you are your most authentic self, you will attract what you want to attract. And we try to do that with the team. We try to put creatives first. They're not hidden back in a room. They have important things to add to the strategy and with the client. It's important to be in the room with the client. It's important to problem solve as a team. It's a big piece is in designing brands. There is no ego. It's teamwork, and we don't own it. It's for hire. So, there's no ego. There's no, I'm the tortured artist and why did you touch my thing? And so it's just important to find like-minded people like that. And that's always worked for us. And it's always been the type of people that we want to spend a lot of time with. You spend a lot of time of your life at work with people. You want to be with people that you enjoy.
Yeah. That ego is very interesting, especially in a highly creative shop like you all. I'm sure over the years you've seen people that maybe they didn't have an ego when they came in, but they built this unbelievable brand and they got an ego. And I guess how have you had to coach people along the way with that, or has that ever even happened?
I don't know that it happens throughout years and years when people stay a long time. I wouldn't say so much that. It's just that it's something we usually find out pretty quickly on, like in the first 3 to 6 months, if someone is that type, and it's not going to be a good fit because of that. The thing is you can definitely feel proud about your skill and your talent and what you create with the team. Like there's a lot of space for that creative confidence, and you should. Like everyone on our team is amazing, and huge props. It's when it becomes sort of this disrespectful ego that, sort of the old school perfect creative director. I'm just thinking in my mind like someone like from Mad Men or something.
Oh, yeah.
That like no one's as good as me, and that it's when you think about it, when you drill down, like it's disrespectful to other people on your team. We definitely want to have an environment that's positively shines on everyone's contribution, and they are incredibly respectful of one another, and give each other props and feel proud also of their own work. But it's not in this ugly ego way, and I guess that's what I mean when I say that, because yes, we should have a healthy amount. And I would say as an agency too, like you don't want your agency to just be an order taker. Like tell me what you want, here it is. That is a big thing too with the type of people that we attract at Statement. It's people that want us to challenge them and be the experts in our field and create something for them. You tell me this is the problem and this is what I think you need, and we're going to say, well, but why? Maybe it needs to be this. And that's a great relationship.
Yeah.
If you're just looking for someone to spit out, a logo, it's not us, and it's never been us, and we don't want clients like that.
Yeah. Well, I was actually going to ask you, just beyond the team, I know that there's many of your clients, I know it from our standpoint, they want to be a part of the process and the journey. And so if there is an ego, it definitely, beyond being harmful to the team, it can also be harmful to the clients. And so I'm sure you guys collaborate heavily with your clients through that branding process and kind of take them along with the journey. Is that
We
right?
do. Yeah, we do. And that's a big piece of it. That's definitely how you get buy-in. It's how you learn kind of on much deeper levels what's going on with this potential brand and what it might need. A lot of people can't actually verbalize specific things to you, but the more you spend time in these process meetings, the more it becomes clear. I mean, your question earlier about sort of like when an ego goes bad, we don't see that so much internally in the Statement team, but there's definitely sometimes a player or two within the client side team that weird egos emerge, and then that's definitely our team then has to have a little bit of strategy of, okay, listen to Brad, who needs to talk on, and how are we going to, get what we need to get done, to get this thing done, to deliver to them, and what are the strategies then that we should adjust and adapt and be flexible to still do right by this brand and get the thing done, but sort of work around sometimes some toxic egos that can get...
Ensure that it's Brad's idea at the end of it, right?
Right. Like those are sort of the complexities of working with people, and definitely we see that. And I mean, at the end of the day, our allegiance is to the brand. We want to make the best brand, whether whether you're our best friend or you have a maybe difficult person that we're trying to work with. But yeah.
Bethany, were you, as we wrap up, I mean, Statement, you guys have built something extraordinary.
Thank you.
You're a strong, business owner. Like, I think, were you the first EO president that was a female?
No, we had Debbie Gordon.
Debbie was?
Yep,
Okay.
Debbie was.
So I knew you were, I mean, there hadn't been a lot up to the time you were the president. So, that's... You have no problem stepping in and running the show.
Well, and I think EO Nashville has done a really good job of growing our female membership. We still, I believe, have the most females of any of the U.S. chapters. We have a really strong female entrepreneurship community in the Nashville area. I don't know that it's always super externally out there because, women are juggling a lot of things. You're running the business, and then you got to go home and make sure, your kids are getting their, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and so it's a little less, we're maybe at a little less happy hours, a little less, meet and greets, but we're getting stuff done.
Yeah. Well, Bethany, thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
Sure.
There's so many great takeaways from this episode, and I appreciate our friendship, appreciate all the stuff you do for, Nashville and the creative community, and I appreciate you being a part of the show today. So thank you. That's a wrap on our episode with Bethany Newman. A huge thanks for sharing your story and giving us a look into the mindset behind building brands with an edge and staying relevant in a fast-changing market. If this conversation sparked ideas for you, be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share so that we can continue to bring great content to the Nashville community. Until next time, stay creative, stay curious, and keep that spark alive.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Spark from Creative Assembly. Thanks for spending time with us and exploring the minds shaping Nashville's creative future. If you're walking away more inspired, connected, or energized, that's exactly the point. A big thank you to our sponsor, Snapshot, and the incredible team behind the scenes who make this show possible. Your support fuels every conversation and keeps collaboration alive. So if you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, stay creative, stay curious, and keep that spark.